Yeah.
You agree that was unhinged, what he did?
I think coming out, and the first part when he was reading off the prompter was correct. Whoever wrote it, if it was Stephen Miller or someone else, that sounded like somebody who was actually thinking of the families of the people who had just passed away. And then he had a campaign rally in the middle of what should have been a somber occasion. And these DEI policies were put in place in 2013. He had every opportunity through his first administration.
If there is one thing that Donald Trump will never do, besides show basic humanity or refrain from putting 10 pounds of orange makeup on every morning, the one thing he won't do is take accountability. Donald Trump hates accountability and loves doling out the blame, which is what he has been doing ever since the horrific plane crash we saw in D.C. Donald Trump does not care that people have lost their loved ones. Donald Trump does not care about the tragedy. He cares about doling out blame, and that is exactly what he did in a disgusting press conference, one of the lowest moments already of his presidency. And one Democrat he specifically went after is former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who was having none of it. And he CLA back at Donald Trump and a takedown that we're going to check out because we need more energy like Pete's. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way. And it really means the world to me. Now, before we get into Pete's response, I want to hear some of what Trump said. I know it's disgusting, but we have to listen.
Office, they put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program. Then another article, the Federal Aviation Administration, this was before I got to office, recently, second term. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. Can you imagine? These are people that are, actually their lives are shortened because of the stress that they have. Brilliant people have to be in those positions, and their lives are actually shortened, very substantially shortened, because of the stress where you have many, many planes coming into one target.
Like I said, all blame game all the time, and coming up with the most ridiculous, racist, unhinged, out of control, weird places and people and groups to point the finger at with no evidence to back it up. Donald Trump started the press conference by saying, "We don't want to wait for 6 months or 2 years. To get the facts about the situation, we're going to share some opinions today, because people like my opinions, yes, angry, racist conspiracy theorists like your opinions about Day Donald, not people who actually care to rectify the situation or comfort those who have lost family members, loved ones, friends, that know he does not care." And that is why Pete Buttigieg responded to Donald Trump. And I want to check out what he had to say right here. Pete Buttigieg calls Trump despicable for blaming plane crash on him. The former Transportation Secretary said the president should be leading, not lying. Former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg called President Donald Trump despicable after he blamed Buttigieg for Wednesday night's collision between a commercial flight and a helicopter over Washington, D.C. Although the cause of the collision still isn't clear, Trump has blamed the crash on air traffic controllers, the helicopter pilots, and diversity in hiring at federal agencies. He also singled out Pete Buttigieg as a possible culprit without any actual evidence. Do you know how badly everything's run since he's run the Department of Transportation? He's a disaster. Trump said during a press conference about the crash on Thursday. Buttigieg quickly responded to Trump's blame game on social media, calling the attack despicable. The former Transportation Secretary said the president should be leading, not lying, and defended his performance in the role we put. Safety. First drove down, close calls, grew air traffic control, and had 0 commercial airline crash fatalities out of millions of flights on our watch. Buttigieg said he also noted that one of Trump's first actions since being inaugurated was to fire and suspend some of the key personnel who helped keep our skies safe. Buttigieg concluded by saying that it was time for the president to show actual leadership and explain what he will do to prevent this from happening again. Huffington Post reached out to Sean Duffy, the current transportation secretary, to see if he agrees with Trump partially blaming the collision on his predecessor, but no one immediately responded while speaking with reporters. Thursday morning, Duffy said that the crash was absolutely preventable, adding, "Obviously, it is not the standard to have aircrafts collide. I want that to be clear. I don't know in what world Donald Trump thinks PEDs should be responsible for this when Donald Trump is president. Anything that happens as a result of President Biden's successes, Donald Trump will be claiming as his own for the next 4 years and all. Although Joe Biden took up the mantle of our recovery from the disaster that was coming back from the COVID-19 pandemic, both stopping the pandemic and rebuilding our economy better than ever before. You didn't hear complaints from Joe Biden all the time. He moved forward. Donald Trump is always going to blame Joe Biden for leaving him a successful economy, a strong nation, relative stability. It's ridiculous. And he's going to focus on DUI. This is clearly the through line of Donald Trump's first 100 days. And it's probably going to be what we see him talk about all those culture wars the most for the rest of his administration, and someone who did a really great job identifying the ways that Donald Trump wants to lie about Day was Jaroff in a couple of clips I want to check out right here.
There is a moment to be talking about those things, and there is a moment to just be a consoler in chief. And I thought that CNN's aviation expert, Pete Montine, put it well. He said what he said is not only unprofessional, unpresidential, inconsiderate of the status of the investigation, but it's frankly unhinged. This DEI policy was put into...
You agree that was unhinged, what he did?
I think coming out, and the first part when he was reading off the prompter was correct. Whoever wrote it, if it was Stephen Miller or someone else, that sounded like somebody who was actually thinking of the families of the people who had just passed away. And then he had a campaign rally in the middle of what should have been a somber occasion. And these DEI policies were put in place in 2013. He had every opportunity through his first administration to revoke them if they thought they were terrible, but he didn't. And when you talk about staffing issues, sure, the control room is a problem, but you know what else is a problem? That there's no head of the FAA because Michael Whitaker resigned for months. Elon Musk has been trying to push him out since September when he said you should pay a $600,000 fine for SpaceX, that they're failing to follow the license requirements, constantly on him. He knows he's going to get fired. He resigns. We have no head of the Coast Guard, and they have in the first week in office gutted this key aviation safety advisory committee.
Coast Guard.
I'm talking about all the people that take care of us, that make sure that you are safe. They are trying to gut that to install
Biden was
people
taking care of us. Biden couldn't even show up in Palestine for a year.
That's my favorite game that you play. It's
No,
not
you
going to work
play
for
in it.
four. Really? I'm talking about the president. You won. And now I'm talking about the president and the people he put into office. He showed up with one message. It's DEI's fault. Then Hegseth says DEI. Then Duffy says DEI. And then J.D. Vance, maybe playing a little bit of cleanup, says, well, if it wasn't DEI in terms of the pilots it's very stressful to work with people when we have these kinds of DEI policies. DEI is not a scapegoat for everything. It is, I get it, for some voters, it's what they want to hear about. But
in a way, DEI is the mirror to the Democrats' argument with racism or climate change. It can be used to explain everything, except unlike racism and climate change, which the left found under every rock, every issue. DEI is indeed under every rock because the Democrats put it there. In fact, you boasted about it. So it's nobody's fault if they are suspicious that it might do damage because we were told how great it was. And then we learned that it was discriminatory. And it's not our fault to wonder, is this playing a role in a lot of the problems that we were seeing in whether it was airplane parts or anything, or in the entertainment industry? We saw problems and we're going like, well, this seems to be everywhere. We were told that. So I think the suspicion is fair. It may not be right, this could have been human error. This could have been a malfunction. But the suspicion is always going to be there because it was placed there by your clan.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. And again, we've said this so many times. If Donald Trump really wants to talk DEI, if Donald Trump really wants to talk about those who aren't qualified to do their jobs, look inward. Look at yourself in the mirror. You are the least qualified person to ever be president. You shouldn't have been allowed to run for president. You're an insurrectionist. You're a criminal. You're a traitor. You're not only unqualified, you should be barred from the office. And then take a look at your cabinet. Pete Hegseth, Tulsi, Gabbard, RFK Jr., Kash, Patel, Pam, Bondi, Matt Gaetz. First, those people are not qualified to serve. Those people should scare us all. If they're able to serve as a terrifying thought, but it's the blame game for Donald Trump, and it continued right here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Second, for your signature, we have a presidential memorandum titled Immediate Assessment of Aviation Safety. In light of the damage done to aviation safety by the Biden administration's DEI and woke policies, what this presidential memorandum orders is for your Secretary of Transportation and FAA Administrator, in this case acting FAA Administrator, to basically ensure that we are actively undoing all of that damage, that we are assessing how much damage was done, and that we're ensuring that people hired within the FAA, in keeping with your memorandum of January 21st, are only the most outstanding, capable people for the jobs that they're being hired into.
In other words, competence.
Yes, sir. Elevating competence over everything else instead of the DEI policies that were pursued by the Biden administration.
He is using the office of the presidency in whatever way he wants to shift the blame, signing official documents saying, I didn't do anything wrong. It's Joe's fault. He is a petulant child. And it's disgraceful and disgusting. We've said it so many times when crisis comes. I'm really wishing Kamala Harris was behind that desk right now. And we have to keep bringing that up. We have to talk about his failures, and we're going to every single day on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you're stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.